everybody, it's Lori again, and welcome back to my kitchen. Hey, it's still the end of the garden season here, and today's, focus for me is green tomatoes. Now, we are always left with just tons and tons of green tomatoes from our garden because our growing season is just so short that our tomatoes don't have the opportunity to fully mature, and lots of them don't ripen before the frost and cold weather comes. And so every year I make a few recipes with green tomatoes. Now, about a month ago, I think I shared with you our family recipe for piccalilli, which is a sweet pickle relish made out of green tomatoes. And of course, we all are probably aware that you can slice green tomatoes and can those for frying later, and you can make salsa verde with them. But those are wonderful things. But I guess you can only use so much salsa. A lot of us make traditional ripe tomato type salsa, and then you also have your salsa verde. And there's only so much salsa that you can eat in a year. And of course, there's also only so much pickle relish that a person can eat in a year also. And so quite a few years back, I was on a journey to try to figure out what I could do with green tomatoes that would be a little bit more savory. And working off of the basis of my mother-in-law's piccalilli relish recipe, I came up with the idea of doing this as a green tomato chili base. And I know that this recipe is going to seem absolutely wacky to a lot of you, but please listen to my reasoning and my way of thinking. And it works wonderful. So hear me out. All right. Green tomatoes have a different acidity level than fully ripe tomatoes. All right. And they're also a lot less watery or juicy. Okay. So to make it so that it is very easily hot water bath canned in a very short amount of time, pickling technically is the answer to all of it. Okay. And this is kind of starting out as a pickle recipe, but it ends up being an amazing, savory, sweet, and spicy chili base. All right. So I do add vinegar to this recipe. I also add sugar to this recipe, but both of those things are really monumentally important to create a pH environment that is very, very safe for a short hot water bath process. And at this point in time of the year, I'm just pretty much done with tomatoes, and the quicker I can get them on the shelf and be done with them, the happier I am. We've got all of these blessings from the garden, just literally blessings and gifts from God. And I do want to preserve them. I do want to do the most that I can with them. But I'm also kind of at the end. I'm at the end of my rope at this point in time of the canning season, the garden canning season anyway. And I just want to get through it quickly. And so I developed this recipe quite a few years ago for this green tomato chili base. And so I would like to share it all with you today. Now, when I am talking green tomatoes, I am literally talking very, very green, firm. Like, these things are rock hard. They're not juicy at all. Now, I will, when we're all cleaning out our gardens, we do have tomatoes in different stages of maturity, okay? And so I will use tomatoes that are starting to turn a little bit orange. You can see that this one is still quite green. It's very, very firm. It's still very, very sour, all right? There's no sweetness to this. And I will go on to add, and this is why also I add sugar to my chili base recipes at the end of the year, because our tomatoes are not sun ripened at this point in time. They're not naturally sweet. And so there is kind of a need for a little bit of sweetness in the recipe just to take away that tartness. Now, green tomatoes are also, in my opinion, once you get past that kind of tart flavor of green tomatoes really don't have much of a taste or a distinguishable flavor, okay? So what I have done in this recipe is I've pretty much created all of the savory tastes through adding spices, all right? But I can promise you, just hang with me, I promise you, your family will never know that they are eating a green tomato in this chili base. I promise. So get yourself your green tomatoes together. And then what you're going to do is you're just going to core them and remove any, blemishes or whatever, and get them pureed, skin and seeds and all, just in your food processor. And when I say pureed, I really mean pureed. I don't just mince or chop these. I munch them up pretty well in my food processor, all right? The lights in this place are just insane sometimes. But you can see that this is actually a pretty fine texture, all right? So I really mince and kind of puree them up really, really well. But now, like I said, green tomatoes do not lend as much moisture and fluid as a ripe tomato would. And so we are going to add fluid via vinegar to this recipe, just so that it doesn't burn and scorch in the cook down period. But I will share the recipe with you, and then I will get going on the rest of the directions, okay? So Lori's green tomato sweet heat chili base. We want 7 quarts or 28 cups of green tomato puree. And now, like I said, don't bother skinning those things. Just skin, seeds, and all. Just go into your food processor and just blend them and puree them up, okay? So 7 quarts of green tomato puree, 4 medium onions, and send those through your food processor also and just mince them up really good. 4 medium onions, 4 cups of vinegar. And yes, I know that sounds like a lot, but this all evens out, I promise you. 4 bell peppers. Now you can do the red bell peppers, the green, orange, yellow, whatever bell peppers you have on hand. Even if you have some of those real mild, I think they're called Anaheim peppers. Whatever mild pepper you have on hand, even if you would like to use banana peppers. Now you might want to double, the amount of banana peppers to green bell peppers, because banana peppers are even a little bit more mild tasting than bell peppers are. But just a mild pepper, a sweet mild pepper, 4 of those. 6 to 8 green and crushed chili peppers. 8 tablespoons of chili powder. 2 tablespoons of paprika. 4 tablespoons of minced garlic. 2 tablespoons of cumin. 2 tablespoons of oregano. 2 tablespoons of basil. And then 4 to 6 cups of brown sugar. And I know that sounds like a lot also, but now think about this. You're probably going to have a total of 7 to 8 quarts of product, okay? You've got 4 cups of vinegar, and you really need to counteract that with 4 cups of sugar. Otherwise, this is really going to taste like a pickle, and we don't want it to taste like a pickle. But the reason why we're adding the vinegar and also the sugar is so that we can condense the hot water bath time down to this short, okay? And the pH level of green tomatoes, unless you actually have pH testing strips at home, it's really hard to guarantee what exactly the pH level or the acidity level of green tomatoes is. And so this is why I add the vinegar and the sugar. I then don't have to worry about the pH level at all. I know I'm in a safe margin for a very short hot water bath time. And so I can fly through tons of green tomatoes this way and have a wonderful savory meal base for our house and our family. So I have pureed all of those green tomatoes, 7 quarts of them. I have also minced all of my onions. I've got my bell peppers in here. I've got my chili peppers in here. And like I said, green tomatoes don't have the fluid or the liquid amount that ripe tomatoes have. All right, you can see that this is actually quite, yeah, you can see it. It's a very, very dry mixture because green tomatoes are just not juicy. And so to that mixture, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add my 4 cups of vinegar and see if that kind of makes things a little bit more moistened up. Now, if I don't feel like that is enough fluid to allow all of my vegetables to cook and simmer for about an hour and a half to maybe 2 hours, then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a little additional water. All right, so I'm just going to get these stirred up here well and see where my tomato mixture is at today. Because, you know, every time you make this, depending on, well, like I said, if you're using kind of orange tomatoes, you're probably going to have a little bit more fluid level in those. So depending on whether you're going totally green tomatoes or orange tomatoes, or if you're using a mixture of both, that's really going to determine how much natural juice is in your pan after you have pureed all of this. So I'm just going to mix it up and see. And I'm not really covered completely with fluid yet. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to add just about another 1.5 or 2 cups of water, just so that we have enough fluid in there so that when we're simmering this whole thing, we're not going to have a whole lot of burning and scorching happening. All right. All right. So we have that wonderful mixture going on in our pan. I am going to cover this. I'm going to put it on medium heat and I'm going to simmer and stir it occasionally for about an hour or an hour and a half. Now, partially through that cooking period, I will see that things are kind of getting a little bit more juicy. You know, the tomatoes and the onions and the peppers, they're cooking and they're releasing their juice. And once I see that a little bit more fluid has been created naturally by heating it, that's when I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to remove the lid and just continue simmering and cooking with the lid off. So I do that about halfway through the cooking period. And generally, I cook this, like I said, for about an hour, hour and a half, maybe 2 hours over medium heat. So I will get my burner going and I'll get that simmering and I will see you again shortly. All right, guys, so I'm back and I'm almost to the end of my cooking period, but one crucial thing that I forgot to mention is that the minced garlic goes in at the beginning also. So along with your peppers and your chili peppers and your onions and tomatoes, put that minced garlic in there for the cook down period, okay? So I am back. I did add my garlic off cam and I am back and I have cooked this, simmered it for about an hour and a half. I'm getting pretty close to 2 hours at this point in time, but I just want to show you what this looks like at this point in time. I mean, that's already absolutely beautiful, beautiful. And what we're going to do now is we're simply going to shut our heat off because we're done with the cooking period. Now all we're going to do is season it. And of course, once you add sugar, your cooking time is pretty much over because we know that sugar scorches and burns very, very easily. So I'm going to go through all of the wonderful spices. And our spices, we've got a lot of chili pepper and a lot of paprika in this recipe, and also the cumin also. And that's actually going to add that wonderful red and kind of brownish color to our green tomato chili base. And it's going to look wonderful. By the time we're done, it's going to look just like chili base. So let's start with our chili powder. And we have 8 tablespoons. And I know that sounds like an insane amount of chili powder, especially since you already added those dried chili peppers. But believe me, this needs a lot of flavor. You're also probably going to be covering, you know, when you go to open and serve it, you're going to be adding maybe some ground beef to it or some venison to it, maybe some beans and other items like that. And so this amount of chili powder actually kind of covers flavoring all of those other things also. So we've got 8 tablespoons of chili powder. And if you feel like that's going to be too much for you, cut that measurement back. You guys always have creative freedom with my recipes, and actually most canning recipes in general. There's always creative freedom, especially in the seasoning. Now, when you're talking pickling and things like that, you don't ever want to mess with the amounts of vinegar in a recipe, but seasoning, salt, pepper, garlic, onions, any type of flavoring like that, you have creative freedom and you can make it to your own taste, okay? So I added 8 of chili powder. I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of paprika. And those are going to be really nice big heaping tablespoons of paprika. And then we're going to do 2 tablespoons of cumin. I guess I like to measure things in 2. And I really like the taste of cumin in my chili. That's just one of those flavors that I really like in chili. So we have 2 tablespoons of cumin in there. And then we're going to do the same with oregano, 2 tablespoons. And 2 tablespoons of basil. Nice big heaping tablespoons of both of those. And then we're going to do salt and pepper to taste. And I'll just kind of go by feel here. That's what I do. I don't know, probably about 2 tablespoons of salt. And probably the equivalent of at least 1 tablespoon of pepper. And now we're going to get to the brown sugar. Now on the brown sugar, you can make this as sweet as you want. I said 4 to 6 cups. I'm going to start with 4 cups. And I really like to do, I like to make my own brown sugar, particularly for my chili base, because I really like that molasses flavor. And it's so easy to make brown sugar at home, you guys. It's 1 cup of white sugar to 1 tablespoon of blackstrap molasses. So I have 4 cups of sugar, and in throughout here I have 4 tablespoons of blackstrap molasses. And I didn't even bother mixing it up tonight because it's all going to get mixed up in the pan anyway. So I'm just going to dump all of my molasses and sugar in, and I have an equivalent of 4 cups at this point in time. And we're just going to stir all of that up in our pot and get all of our seasonings and our sweetening mixed in really well. Now, I want to remind you that my burner is not on. Okay, after we add that sugar, it's just so easy to scorch and burn this. So I make sure that my burner is off when I'm adding my seasonings and my sugar to this. All right, guys, this is the point in time that I want you to taste your chili base, okay? Because this is the last point that you can make any final adjustments on seasoning. So always make sure to taste it before you jar it up. And you can see what a lovely color it is now. Kind of looks more like chili base, doesn't it? Because, like I said, that paprika and the chili powder and the cumin, it kind of colors it in that classic way that we all imagine chili should look. That still has a little too much twang for me from the vinegar. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add another 2 cups of sugar, and I'm also going to squeeze in a couple of tablespoons of blackstrap molasses. I got to go and grab that. Here we go. 1. And 2. wipe that off on my towel. Get that mixed in. Now, like I said at the very start of the video, the reason for all of this vinegar, and then of course we are counteracting it with sugar, the reason why I do it this way is because I really don't know exactly what the pH level of my green tomatoes are. And so what I'm doing in essence is I'm pickling them, but then I'm adding all of my savory spices to then kind of turn it into that chili base. But the reason why I like doing it this way is because it takes your canning time from, 30, 40 minutes, and it shrinks it all the way down to either 15 or 20, depending on how large a jar you're going to be using. All right, so now that I've added just a little bit more sugar and molasses, I'm going to give it just one more final taste here and make sure that I'm happy with it before I get it into the jars. Yep, that's where I want it. It still gets you a little bit behind the jaw, but that was just the perfect amount of sugar. All right, so I think what I'm going to do at this point in time, oh, and by the way, you can see that my canner is heated up here by my pan. I started heating that. I started getting my canner ready about 5 minutes before I knew I was done cooking my chili base down. So I started heating the canner. Because you're working with a very hot product, you want to put those jars into a very hot canner. But right now I'm going to clean up my space and I'm going to get my jars over here, and then we'll get the chili base all jarred up and into the canner. So I'll be right back. All right, I've got all my jars and I am ready to go. Now I have not heated my jars up. It is a little bit cool in our house right now. We're going into winter. And so I want to be careful of thermal shock. If you have a super hot product going into a really cold jar, it can shock the jar and break it. And so I'm going to introduce this hot product fairly slowly at first to just allow my jar to adjust. And the way I do that is just by slowly kind of dripping in a little bit of that hot product. And then what I do is I move to the next jar and I slowly introduce a little bit into that one also. And we'll just allow that jar to adjust. And then we're going to go back to our first one and we can complete filling it. I think I'm going to slide my pan a little closer so we don't have so many drips tonight. Now you can cook this down as thick as you want it, or you can leave it a little bit thinner. The choice is just completely up to you. And I fill my jars to approximately 1-inch headspace. And then, like any other canning application, you are going to wipe that rim and make sure you have no drips or food particles on it. And place your flat lid and ring. Now I'm using Superb, so I'm not going to tighten them as tight as other lids that I use. Just to the first point of resistance is what I do. And then that hot jar with hot food in it is going to go into the hot canner. All right, so we've got this other one already acclimating. We're going to start another one. Just drip a little bit in there and let that jar adjust while we go back and we fill this one that has been adjusting already. To that same 1-inch headspace. All right, we'll get the lid on that. Wipe your rim. Place your lid. And into the canner. All right, guys, I'm just gonna go ahead and fill the rest of my jars. As you can see, I have 7 quarts in my canner, and I got 2 and maybe almost a half a pint extra. Generally, this makes 7 quarts or 14 pints. So like I said, I didn't cook it down quite as far as what I normally do to evaporate some of that juice and stuff off. But that is a really wonderful size batch. And I kind of like doing it once in a while in pint jars also, particularly for those nights when you want to have a chili dog and you don't want to crack open an entire quart of chili. These pint-sized jars are just perfect for that. So I'll get some lids on these and I'll get these processed later. But for now, oh, I didn't even go over process times. This is a simple hot water bath. Now remember, this is kind of a pickled item, okay? So it doesn't take a long process time because the vinegar and the sugar makes this extremely safe. So the hot water bath time is 15 minutes for pints or 20 minutes for quarts. And you can either hot water bath or steam can this. So I'm going to be using my pressure canner as a steam canner tonight, and I will get these steam canned for 20 minutes, and then I'll be back to show you the beautiful results. All right, so my 20-minute steam canning period is over, and I allowed my canner to cool down for a little while. I cracked open the lid and allowed it to cool another 10 minutes, and then I moved it back just a little bit, allowed another 10 minutes. And now I feel like it's safe to remove my lid. And boy, listen to those pop, guys. Just awesome. I love my superb lids. Look at how beautiful this chili base is. We're going to get these out. And I do kind of snug the rings up just a little bit on my superb when I'm taking them out of the canner, you know, because I put them in so loose so that the lids can vent properly. The superb lids are amazing. They have amazing sealing compound on them, but I have found that if you put them into the canner fingertip tight, like what we do with other brands of lids, they really have a hard time venting, and sometimes they will buckle up. And that's simply because the sealing compound is so thick that when you're screwing on that ring fingertip tight, you're not allowing enough space for the hot air inside of the jar to push out underneath those thick superb lids. So I put them on really loose going into the canner, and then I just very gently snug them up. And I'm not talking about holding the jar and cranking it. I just snug up that ring just a little bit. But as you heard, as soon as I took off my lid tonight, they just went pop, 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 just like popcorn. Sealed absolutely amazing. Okay, so I do have a previously canned jar of my, let me see if I can move this just a little bit, of my green tomato chili base here that I'll show you the texture of. Look at how lovely this is. Nobody will ever know that they are eating green tomatoes. I swear, you guys, it's just absolutely amazing. All right, let's get everything moved around. Get you aimed down here. And you know what? I bet you I forgot my spoon. Hang on. Aha, it wasn't very far away. All right. So I just want you to be able to see what the texture of this chili base is like. Look at this. Green tomatoes, you guys. It's just amazing. Skins, seeds, and all. Wonderful tomatoes and peppers and chili peppers in there. Wonderful chili powder and cumin. This tastes amazing. Now just imagine, you know, putting some cooked ground beef in here, or cooked venison, or even turkey or chicken, and some beans. When you go to serve it, just add whatever you want, maybe some corn to it, however you like your chili. And I'm telling you guys, this stuff is really, really yummy, if I do say so myself. And what I really love about it, sorry, I'm having troubles getting my camera set here. What I really love about it is, because I've added the vinegar and the sugar to the recipe, it increases the safety of the product, which then reduces the canning time. So if you're like me and you have tons and tons of green tomatoes at the end of the season, and you don't want them just laying all over your house, slowly waiting for them to ripen, and you want to just process a whole bunch of them, I'm telling you guys, this is one of my favorite ways of doing it. And like I said, this stuff is so delicious. It tastes exactly like a chili base should. It doesn't taste pickled. It's spicy. It's got all of those wonderful classic flavors in it. It's just seriously so yummy. So I hope you will give it a try in your own homes. I want to thank you once again for spending your time with me again today. God bless you all, and happy canning, everybody.